Welcome back to the Blocks Retro Repair YouTube channel. Today we're going to be replacing the capacitors on this Megatouch monitor. We're going to pull this monitor out and we're going to replace all the caps. It technically is working, but sometimes it's a little shaky, and also I think it might be leaking high voltage. The cap's not going to fix that, but we'll have to inspect the flyback. Unfortunately, in the last video I worked on these Megatouches, I mistakenly said that flybacks were available for these. I was wrong. I was looking at the wrong monitor, I guess. They're not available, which means if it is leaking high voltage, we're going to have to probably do some sketchy stuff to get it to stop leaking high voltage, depending if it's cracked or what exactly is going on. But without further ado, let's pull the shell off of this Megatouch. We're going to pull the wood off, pull the front bezel off, and figure out how to unbolt this CRT. Now, even though this thing hasn't been on in at least a week, we're going to make sure that it does not have a charge. It doesn't in this case, but you always want to check this, because if it does happen to have a charge, it's gonna really hurt when you accidentally get zapped by, depending on who you ask, upwards of 20,000 volts. And according to AI, up to 80,000 volts. I don't believe that unless you're talking about one that's absolutely freaking massive, but this one's probably more like 15 to 20. The TV is now pulled out. As you can see, it looks pretty empty without it. We'll have to clean under the TV now that we have that out. That's pretty disgusting. But I got that out. I unplugged the touchscreen and all that fun stuff because I wasn't taking it off the screen, that's for sure, and I'm still not going to do that. But now what we need to do is actually strip the board out of this CRT. The CRT anode, or not, the anode cap? Sure, we'll go with that. And then we just got to gently unplug that, the neck board, and it looks like... Is that seriously soldered on? Okay, so I had to unplug the degaussing coil. Now we have to unplug the neck coil here, which is this connector here. It looks like it goes on the top. I imagine if you plug it into the one below that, it mirrors everything. No, actually, no, that's a completely different connector. That has too many pins. I have no idea what that other connector would do then. And I almost forgot to disconnect these grounds here from the neck board. I'm not sure why they use two, but they're just the wires that connect to the outside of the tube there. Well, I got this setting here, and as you can see, it's not actually that dirty, especially compared to that Space Invaders board. That's a wild thing to be in there. But let's pull this off of the metal frame so we can get down to just the bare PCB, and we can do a little bit closer of an inspection. I'm not convinced I'm going to ultrasonic clean this, but let's be real, I probably should. But honestly, it's really not that bad. I might just take a brush to it and wash it off a little bit, because if I ultrasonic clean it, then it's got to sit for a while, and I don't want to ultrasonic clean the flyback, and that's the really dirty part anyway. So yeah, we'll probably just clean this board by hand. It's really not that bad. This is genuinely one of the cleanest PCBs I've ever pulled off a monitor. Unfortunately, this monitor has like 3 times as many caps as that Space Invaders monitor did. This is ridiculous. Not as high as like a Wells Gardner D9 series. Those are crazy, but a stupid amount of caps for such a little monitor. Now we just gotta unscrew the PCB from this metal frame. We've got the board set up here on the pan of ice. We got our desoldering gun heating up. Let's not melt all those wires. Once that heats up, we'll suck out all these caps and we'll start replacing. Again, just like last time, it's super simple. I'm not gonna bother showing you too much of this because it's really boring. You just follow the instructions on the cap kit. Just desolder, resolder. Super simple. Now, some people will remove all the caps and they'll put on the new caps. Don't do that, because you might run into an issue where the cap kit is wrong. Pull the cap off, grab the new one out of the cap kit, make sure it's the same, and if it's not the same, read the notes on the cap kit, make sure the cap kit doesn't have a note, because sometimes there's revisions where the cap changes because of something. But if it's different, then you might have an issue and you might need to look into that. So don't just remove them all and then slap them all in. Sometimes the silk screen's backwards, so pay attention to how they come off, which side the negative bar is on. So just pay attention, pull it off, replace it. Just do it in order of usually lowest to highest is what I like to do, or start in a corner and work over, whatever you want to do. But don't just remove all of them and then put them all back, because that is more likely to screw something up. Hardest part is going over this stupid thing, trying to find where each individual one is. I usually do a row, then solder that row, and then, you know, once I'm done, I'll cut off all the stupid legs. Otherwise, I'm switching tools too damn much. I don't want to do it that way. But I'm looking for C19. It's somewhere around here. Again, this is why you got to pay attention. They actually screwed up this cap kit. It's not terribly uncommon, unfortunately. It doesn't matter what brand you get. It's hard for them to do every monitor ever. It's impressive they do as many as they do. But this one right here, they labeled as C202. There is no C202. This is C505. They mislabeled it as C202, but it's the same rating, so that's the one that they missed. And also C13, they don't have listed at all as a replacement, but it is an electrolytic, a 2.2 at like 50 volts. So we're going to replace it, but they don't list it as something on their cap kit. They don't give a cap for it. So not perfect, no cap kit's perfect, but especially for these kind of niche monitors, obviously something like a K7000, everyone's doing so many of those. Those are usually pretty correct, but something so niche like this, it's understandable that some things are wrong. You just got to pay attention. Again, another thing they kind of screwed up, 604, they didn't replace that. That's another electrolytic that we're going to have to replace. Hopefully I have these in my cap collection, but it just goes to 607, which is kind of annoying. Now, I cannot promote one of these desoldering guns enough. They don't pay me anything. There is an affiliate link in the description, technically, for one of these from Amazon. This is the brand I use. It's really cheap and absolutely phenomenal. The amount of years I went without using a desoldering gun to just suck all the solder out of the legs for these capacitors makes me mad, because that is a lot of wasted time that I spent when I could simply just do that and pull the cap out. If you've done one of these cap kits without one of these things, you know how stupid and ridiculous it is to just have to use a soldering iron to usually just bridge both of them together and pull it out that way. The desoldering guns save so much time, it is ridiculous. Well, at least actually I can explain the 604 issue. See, they have you to replace 610, which 610 is that actually ceramic cap right there, and you're obviously not replacing a ceramic with an electrolytic, especially without a note saying that you're replacing a ceramic with an electrolytic. What somebody probably did, they looked at this real quick, saw that rating, the number there, and thought that 610 went this one, not the 604. So it does actually include a cap to replace 604, they just mark it as 610. So that was just an error, somebody just saw that wrong. We'll swap that out real quick. It's not a big deal, you know. They at least included the cap. Somebody just read it wrong. That's what happened with the 505 instead of 202. They read it wrong. By looking at the underside, you can very much easily tell that the 610 is that ceramic and the 604 is the electrolytic. Now, the neck board on this monitor, you have to desolder this stupid cover off of it so you can actually get to the caps, but now that we've done that, we can replace the caps on the neck board. Ultimately, I got no explanation how they missed C13. They didn't have a cap for it. I used every cap in the kit, but I got a 2.2 at 50 volt cap to put in there to replace it. So I don't know what happened there. That's just a screw up on their part, I guess. Now don't forget to put your little sticker on it with the date, so in the future if somebody comes along and sees, oh, those are new caps, wonder when this was done. Oh, it was done a week ago, or oh, this was done 5 years ago and the caps could actually be bad again. So just put a sticker on it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this flyback off so we can closely inspect it for cracks. And usually, if you suspect a flyback has cracks, replace it. Usually on something like a K7000, they're usually cracked and they're available. Buy and replace them. You usually know if a K7 flyback is cracked because when they crack, it's very obvious because they will very much tell you that they're cracked. Okay. On something like this that I cannot find a flyback, actually I did find a flyback for this. It's $110. I will throw this monitor out before I spend $110 on a goddamn flyback. So we're going to pull this out and we're going to inspect it and see if we can find any cracks and repair them if they're there. You have got to be joking. That is so much worse than I could have possibly imagined. What we are going to do to repair all of the cracks on this thing is we're going to clean it really well with some isopropyl alcohol, get rid of all of the dirt that's on it, and we're going to give it a nice coat of Corona dope. This stuff should seal this up and prevent this from causing any future problems. Well, it has been fully gooped, so let's give it a little while for that to dry. Actually, it'll probably dry by the time we have it reinstalled, so let's start reinstalling it. Before we install this PCB, we're going to do a little bit of cleaning. We're going to clean this bottom tray here, and obviously before we install this monitor, we'll clean the under the Megatouch. But let's just give this a quick wipe down with some isopropyl alcohol and stuff. I don't want to wipe around that anode because it looks like it still actually has some dielectric grease, and I still don't know where mine is, so we're going to reuse that dielectric grease. There we go. We got this fully reassembled. Now we clean the tray in there with a little bit of isopropyl and a microfiber. Probably a little bit of soapy water too. Get all that cleaned up, and then we can slap this bad boy back in, plug it in, and have all the caps explode because I put them all in backwards. Hopefully not, but we'll find out. Got the TV fully reinstalled, all of that's bolted in, all the power wires, the video wire, the touchscreen wires are all back on. So the second I flip this switch, we will very quickly find out if I installed any of these caps backwards. I'm starting to think that none were installed backwards. That's a good sign. Nothing's gone kabang. Let's see, do we have a picture on the screen? That is, oh, there it is. Perfect. So we have a picture. That is awesome. It's perfectly stable, no shakiness. That is looking Beautiful. So we'll let this boot up fully and make sure everything's working, make sure our touchscreen's still working, and okay, there it goes. It's taking a while, I was getting concerned. But once that boots up, give this a fully good test, make sure that flyback isn't arcing. We'll give this a very nice long burn-in with that touchscreen, with that flyback to make sure it doesn't arc at any times, but I think we're good. It appears to be fully working, so this is awesome. We're going to play some games and have some fun. These things are genuinely really fun. I do actually enjoy having one of these. I do recommend having one of these in your arcade. If somebody doesn't know what to play, they can just play literally just about anything on one of these. You can play all your card games, all your fun games, and if you really want to, you can turn on the explicit games and have some fun there too. Well, that's really annoying. I was having a great solitaire game, and then it just shut down. The monitor stayed working, so it's nothing we did. It's something that must be wrong with the computer. That's concerning. I guess we'll have to verify thermals, maybe? I don't know what happened, but that was annoying. The exact second I stopped recording, it shut down. Okay. That's weird. I doubt it's our SSD, but shoot, man, I don't know. Let's check thermals. Let's make sure all our fans are working, I guess. We did put a new CPU fan on it. It's spinning. So I guess I'm gonna figure out what's going on with this. For some reason, it completely stopped being able to boot. It would get to this screen and just freeze on this screen. So I've reseated the RAM, and that's an issue. Okay, that seems like either a RAM issue or something majorly wrong with the motherboard. Awesome. I've verified with another drive that that unfortunately is not the issue. So it is a motherboard-based issue. I think the next thing we're gonna try I don't think it's the issue, but we're going to just rule it out. We're going to swap in another key because I happen to have another key for this version. Unfortunately, another key did nothing. So what we're going to try next is the RAM. I already reseated it. That didn't work. We're going to pull this RAM out and swap in RAM from another Megatouch I have and see if that happens to fix this issue. Now we're going to try it here with this new stick of RAM and see if it gets past that loading screen. And it booted immediately. So that's simple. We'll just have to buy a new stick of RAM because this is out of one of my other Megatouches. So that's super simple. Not a big deal. At least it now works. Well, that's good news. That means now I get to start mega touching to make sure this thing doesn't have any issues with the CRT and doesn't have to have any further issues with the RAM or anything like that. Well, I've been playing this for at least an hour now, so that's some high scores. Failed miserably at others, but this thing is working absolutely beautifully. So, with that, the monitor is fixed. There's no high voltage leaking. The motherboard's working fantastic, so I'll have to get a new piece of RAM. The only things really left to do on this, we'll have to build a plate, we'll have to get the wooden frame back on it and get that repaired. The T-trim is falling out. We'll need to kind of glue the wood back together just a little bit, slot in new T-trim probably not actually. That T-trim's in good shape, and I'm going to be honest, these aren't worth much, so they don't have terribly much value. And honestly, this will probably go in my arcade until I fix the one that's in my arcade. So, it's functional and it looks damn good. That CRT is looking absolutely fantastic. But if you like what you saw and you want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.